Hello, I'm here with the great Billy Males, who was probably the greatest referee Australia's ever had, and also very successful as an amateur boxer and a professional boxer. How are you, Bill?
I'm very well, thank you, Raymond.
Good on you, Bill. Well, I wonder if you could just tell me briefly, mate, how you started in boxing and about your amateur career.
Boxing, well, at the time I would have been about 10, living at Birrong, which is near on the Bankstown line, and I went to do last sale at Bankstown. Matter of fact, one of our friends there was Mr. Keating.
Well, Keating,
he was
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, and
he was living in Bass Hill then.
And anyway, the school put on a boxing contest at the Capitol Theatre in Bankstown.
Okay.
And that's where I had my first amateur fight.
Do you remember how many amateur fights you had, Bill?
No, after about 100 or more, I lost.
So, would you know how many titles you held as a...
Excuse me, Raymond. I really regret that I didn't really write all their names down in a book.
Yeah.
I really do.
But because you had a big career, you mate.
Yeah.
You won Australian titles, New South Wales titles.
Yes, I was very fortunate. State titles, I think they were mainly held at the Central Railway Institute. Arthur Tunstall was the boss man, Pat Hines, and
so that's the late 50s.
In 1959.
59 you started.
No, that's in about 53. I started at Burwood Police Force.
10 years of age, right?
About 10. We used to get on. I shouldn't say this out loud, but we used to get on the train, pick up a ticket off that the station master would have dropped on the ground, handed it at Burwood, and run for your life.
Yeah, you knew all the tricks, mate.
Well, that was the only way we could get there.
Yeah.
And we'd get home about 9:30 one night. But
so who trained you as an amateur, Bill?
well, a bloke by the name of Pat Edwards, who owned a barber shop on Hume Highway at Enfield, and a man by the name of Keithy Bell,
right,
who had a son who was a fighter, and Sid Winford was the policeman. He fought as a heavyweight or something.
Okay.
He was the first person I'd really noticed a cauliflower ear and a pug nose.
There you go.
And he'd put you through your punches, and he was absolutely fabulous. A lovely, lovely person. And the funny part about that now, Raymond, down the road is my neighbour, and that was his grandfather.
There you go. It's a small
So
world,
it's a
isn't
small
it?
world, yeah.
Small world.
Yeah.
Now, Bill, you had a great career as an amateur, then you moved on to be a pro?
No, I left Burwood for reasons of shifting my jobs, shifting areas, and I went to Newtown Police Force. Them days, Fred Casey, Jackie Bruce, and they were all there, and the Kewen brothers or something. There was quite a number of, and that chap who trained us was the name of Jackie Blom.
Oh, Jack Blom, yeah.
Jack, as far as I could find out, never had a fight. But he was a man who had the gift of the game, could talk to you. He never got in the ring and showed you anything, but could talk to you. And I went from there, Newtown, and 1959 they had an invitation from New Zealand to send the Australian champions out. My brother was selected, I was selected, Sidney Pryor, Graham Foster.
Come up here. Graham Foster, Penrith.
Smitty, and the captain of the team was a bloke by the name of Stan Hayes. Now, in all due respect, Rocky's Gattalari should have got.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a flyweight, and that was their story anyway.
Okay.
And we had 6 fights over there. Sidney Pryor and I had 6 fights over there. We were the youngest. We were only about 16 or something. And we had 6 fights. Sidney and I went through undefeated. All the others got beaten somewhere along the line.
You and Sidney Pryor both ended up butchers too, eh?
He was a butcher, yeah. He worked at Fadstow somewhere. And then what happened then? 59. Then 1960, my employees at the time, Ferndale's Butchery, sort of politely said to me that if you try out for the Rome, I would have to look maybe for another apprenticeship. And
So that's the reason
I,
you went to the
so I never went in the trials. And my brother was the number one selected.
Yeah, your
person,
brother went in.
because my brother was knocking everyone out at the time. You know?
Yeah. He was a good amateur.
Yeah. Anyway, that was fine, but there was one person missing from the team. The team had been selected, and that was, of course, Tony Madigan. He was in America, and he was a male model, and never come back for the trials. Whether he didn't want to come back, didn't have the time, or cost him too much money, I don't know. But he didn't come back, so he wasn't in the team. So Arthur Tunstall, being a very good friend of Tony's, they put on a challenge night when he come back to Sydney. They put on a challenge night, Sydney Stadium. And everyone that had been selected, I think there was about 9 boys in the team selected. Every division except the flyweight, I think.
That's the Rome Olympics,
Went to
right?
Rome. No, Rocky went to Rome for the trials. Yeah, no, Rocky fought.
Yeah, he fought
Rocky
over
fought. So, yeah. Anyway, they had the trials, and I fought Ollie Taylor. And unfortunately, I know it's
Disputed decision, they told me.
it's a long time after the event, and a lot of people wouldn't remember. Yet they were still booing the decision when my brother got in the ring. He was the next fight after me. And so I never went to the games, but my brother did. And
so that's the reason. Basically, it was your job that you actually told your job wouldn't be there.
Well, my mother and my grandmother told me my apprenticeship
was more important
than boxing. But I was at Newtown Police Boys Club when I turned professional.
That's great, isn't it? So a lot of stars down there. Where Jeff Fennick later on came.
Yeah, he come after me, Jeffrey.
After you,
and Johnny Lewis was there when I was there.
Johnny Lewis,
Johnny
Lewis.
But Johnny was like a second man for Jack.
Yeah.
Jackie Blom. And I think there was a black boy named McFadden who had a son. Jimmy McFadden. But
so when Jackie Blom passed away.
Well, when Jackie... Now, what happened... Well, at that particular time, but blokes like Fennick and that changed the rules. When I turned pro in '61, I couldn't train at the Police Boys Club. Wasn't allowed. Freshman, but it was happening. But I went down to Snowy Robinson's gym, which was just down the road of Erskine, because I think Jack and Snowy had an agreement that he would have the amateurs, and if anybody was turning pro, he'd send them down. And that's how I got involved with Snowy, and that itself was a blessing. He was a lovely man. And we went from there. Anyway, I won the bantamweight title 10th of October.
Well, Bill, I'd like to go through your...
1962.
I'd like to go through your pro fights. I've got your record here, mate. Now, you turned pro on the 16th of April, 1962. Fought a guy called Stan Mitchell. He had 8 pro fights under his belt.
Stanley. Good boy.
Was that a 10-round
Good
bout?
fighter, yeah. I never fought anything less.
They're all main events, all fights, weren't they?
Well, they were all 10s, 12s and 15s.
Yeah.
But the 10 round, not all the 10 rounds was the main event.
I'm right, yeah, 12.
It might have been 12 rounds, yeah.
But they were 10-round fights.
But I fought 10s, 12s and 15s. That's all I ever fought.
You stopped Stan Mitchell in 6 rounds. Have you got any memories of that fight? Your bout with Stanley Mitchell?
Stan was a good Aboriginal fighter.
Aboriginal boy?
Aboriginals have a knack of being very good. Yeah. They didn't always put their whole lot of effort into training.
Yeah. Great reflexes.
Yes, absolutely. But, Stan, nice fella.
Referee was Ronnie James?
Yes, that'd be right, yeah. Ronnie. Right.
Ronnie James.
Come from Reesby, Ronnie.
Ronnie James, yeah. Second pro fight. In 7th of May is Johnny Farrell. Johnny Farrell's got 17 fights under his belt.
Yeah. Johnny Farrell was a tough boy.
Johnny Farrell? Very tough?
He was a tough boy. Yeah. Well, they were all tough.
You stopped him in 2 rounds?
Yes, yeah.
In 2 rounds. Then you moved on, fighting also in May of that year, with Ray Mitchell as the referee. You stopped Freddie Arsam, who actually had 38 fights under his belt. Yeah,
well, Freddie was a preliminary fighter. Yeah. He was a preliminary fighter. He would have had a lot of preliminary fights.
You stopped him in 3 rounds.
Yes,
Then after that, Johnny Digby, who later became a judge, I remember, Johnny Digby. And he had 9 fights under his belt. You stopped Johnny Digby in 5 rounds.
Yeah, Johnny was another tough man, another tough boy. Yeah.
Fought a lot of good boys, Johnny Digby.
Yeah.
Then you fought Trevor Ditton. Trevor Ditton, you stopped him in 6 rounds?
Yeah, Trevor Ditton. Yeah, I think he had a brother fighting at the time, I'm not sure. Yeah, I fought Trevor.
Then a little guy that I knew fairly well, Joey Cohen. Joey had 21 fights when you fought him.
Yeah,
lovely bloke, Joey.
They're all a bit experienced. They're all
Aboriginal
boy. Aboriginal. They're all lovely blokes.
Yeah, champion little bloke.
It's sad that what goes on today with all what they're trying to change. Yeah. They're all nice people.
Mate, then you won your title fight with Jackie Bruce. Jackie Bruce, 11 fights under his belt.
That was a sad story, Roman.
Tell me about that one.
Well, I was down at Snowy's. Jackie went to Ernie McQuillan's when he left Newtown Police Club. And because Jack and I were real good friends, we'd been together, even worked on, as a bit of casual work, building the bread company out at Chilora.
Okay.
Anyway, I had to fight Jackie.
And you knew him pretty well, eh?
He gave me, oh yeah, we were friends.
Buddies, yeah.
And it took me 10 rounds to do Jackie, to get past Jackie, yeah. He was a
Tough guy.
Yeah.
Then your title fight with Eddie Elston. Eddie Elston, 11 fights under his belt. You stopped Eddie in 9 rounds.
Yeah.
Tell me about your bout with Eddie Elston.
I remember Eddie from a little way back. And Eddie, we challenged Eddie, and Eddie was smart. He said, well, I'm not going to fight him. He said, if he wants to fight me for my title, because Eddie beat Johnny, no, the fella from Queensland, I think. The fella from Queensland. And he could have been for the bantamweight title, and won the bantamweight title. Because I think Jared had retired, I think. He'd been beaten and got retired. Anyway, I've lost my thought of what was it?
Okay, we're just talking about Eddie Elston.
Oh, Eddie, yeah. And Eddie used to come down to Snowy's gym and train.
Yep.
Anyway, but Eddie said to me, said to Harry Miller, he said, I'm not putting my title on the line. He said, I'll fight him in a 12-round fight. And he said, if he beats me, I'll give him a chance. And as it turned out, I beat, and true to his word, I fought Eddie again for the 15-round title fight, and I think I stopped him in 10 rounds or something.
Oh, good.
1 round more or 1 round
times.
less. Yeah, something like that, yeah. And then I sort of semi-retired, mate. I was married, we had David, my eldest son, and Billy was due to come, and I said to Paddy he'd had enough, because I was doing it 7 days a week. So
taking up too much time.
Training and everything else. There was other things to do in
with
my
your
life.
full-time job.
With my family, yeah.
And you're a butcher then, Bill?
I was a butcher,
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, then they bring that, after you had that break, they brought out Federico Scarponi. Scarponi had 48 fights. Tell me about Fred. Now he's
he might have been world rated them days.
Yeah, he was a very good amateur.
He was the Empire, a European champion. I think.
Yeah. Italian guy.
Something like that. Anyway, but I remember Scarponi fighting Kevin James, because Kevin James was with Snowy.
That's right. He was world class.
And and he was very tough and rugged, and I thought he would be too old for me.
He had a big bag of tricks.
He might have been too old, but he was too smart.
Yeah. Had a lot of fights under his belt.
Yeah, he was regular. Yeah. He spoke to me in the dressing room after the fight, in the showers, and he said to me in his broken English, he said, "You hurt me so many times."
There you go.
Well, I never had the experience. He had the experience to hide it. I never had the experience to. And I was
and
never.
He had a lot of big fights under his belt too, Bill.
Yeah.
Then they brought out a Filipino, Gene Harrigan.
Yeah.
You remember Gene Harrigan?
Yeah, that was a sad story, Gene Harrigan. I fought Gene. It was another 10. Was that a 10 or 12 round? I can't remember.
That was a 12 rounder.
12 round. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, it went the distance,
Yeah.
But I was completely exhausted. I was serious, and I ended up in hospital.
Is that when you had a drink of Coca-Cola or something before?
Yeah, we went back. Might have been Calusi's restaurant.
Well, where's your
in the
Calusi's?
Cross.
There you
Might
go.
have been somewhere at the. We go to the cross from the stadium.
Okay.
And sometimes we went to Checkers, and a lot of these people would know these places.
Yeah, it's going back, Bill.
Yeah, went to Checkers. Anyway, we had a coffee, and of course I had a cold glass of Coke with ice. And of course, by the time we were getting back home, I started vomiting. So Snowy took me straight to Conqueror Hospital. Excuse me. And at that particular time of the years, there was a few fighters dying overseas.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a panic.
It would be, yeah.
Because I had a good black eye. I got a good photo of it. Anyway, they put me in hospital there at Cogra. I was there for about 5 days, and all hell broke loose.
Right.
That I was dying, and I should never. There was a couple of reporters, I can name one, but I won't, who stated that I should never fight again and all that. But I wasn't hurt.
No.
I was never knocked out. I was never knocked down.
No.
But I did have a black eye, and I started to, only from the heat of the fight and drinking the cold Coca-Cola and whatever.
That caused the
that I
problem.
ended up in hospital. Because they checked everything out, and I was there for about 4 days or something. And but
And Billy, in 1963, you fought the classy Italian, Primo Zamperini. Zamperini had a record of 14-2-3. Very good fight. He was a very good amateur.
Yeah.
Won the medal at the Olympics.
The
right?
Olympic Games, that's right. Yeah. I don't know whether he might have been the Italian champion. I'm not sure. But they're trying to match him in Melbourne, and of course Melbourne and Sydney Stadium and Brisbane stadiums were all connected. So they were sharing them around, and they wanted to promote him at Sydney, and so they asked me would I like the fight, and Snowy and I took it. Unfortunately, he beat me also. I just couldn't rise to the occasions for it.
So you hung up the gloves there for a while, Bill?
Well, I come home and I said to Paddy, I'm not going to go much further. I certainly was going to be a world champion, and I thought, with the family and everything, I really had to consider that. And so I sort of semi-retired in '53 after that fight. Now hang on a minute.
So you retired about 18 months, they've made an offer to you? Yeah.
Hang on. See, my memory's not as good as it was. Zamperini I knocked out in 6 rounds.
6 rounds, boy.
I knocked
8 rounds.
Yeah, I knocked that's right. I knocked Zamperini out in 8 rounds. I'm sorry about that. I was beaten by Scarponi, and I was beaten by Aragon. Then they brought out.
Knocked Zamperini out.
And that's where I got the letters in the paper telling me not to fight Zamperini. Because I think Zamperini fought Ollie Tala up in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And they wanted to match him at Sydney Stadium. So anyway, I took the fight and I stopped Zamperini, and that was the happiest day of my life.
Yeah, put you back on the map.
All that they'd wrote about.
Yeah, all the negative stuff.
But, and then I said to Paddy, I said, that's it. I said, let's go out as a winner.
Yeah, yeah.
And in 1965, what do?
You come back to fight the great Johnny Famersham.
They had a boy called Johnny Famersham fighting in Melbourne, and they wanted to put him on at Sydney Stadium, so they asked me would I fight him.
The future world champ.
Yeah, anyway, I left the ring in the 6th round with 4 stitches in the left eye, I think it was. Or
Cut
something.
eye, yeah.
Yeah, with a cut eye, and I certainly wasn't going to beat him on points. I would have had to knock him out the ring. He was brilliant. John was brilliant. And so that was it. I walked away from boxing. I was started to judge and referee. Well, first of all, I started to referee.
Yeah.
It would have been, I'm talking 18 months later.
About 18 months after.
About 67.
And Bill, what a great
67.
career you had as a referee.
Very
Many say our greatest.
Very.
And you were the most successul. You had approximately 30 world title fights under your belt.
Let me tell you something. I got a little bar at home, and I got my memorabilia in it, and I got a big picture frame, and it's got on top of it best ever in Australia. and that's
Well, a lot of
all
people
in
agree
big
with that.
black and white. Well,
A lot of people agree with that,
I was
Bill.
very proud, and yeah, I did achieve. I achieved a lot.
You certainly did.
I did more world title fights than any other
anyone.
Australian.
You certainly did. I was lucky enough to work on 5 world title fights with you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was very.
They were great days, weren't they?
We had some great days together, mate. We got to travel around.
And we could have got into trouble sometimes.
You led me astray a couple of times when we
Yeah,
went overseas,
right.
Bill. But
Yeah.
we got through it.
I don't think there was too much leading there.
You being as big as you were, Raymond, there wasn't much chance.
I was
of me
only a
getting
young
into
fella,
trouble.
but Bill.
Well, I was smart. Yeah.
We had some great times together, Bill. And Bill, you're now living up on the Central Coast.
I do.
And,
I live at Lake Haven.
Yeah.
And,
You go to the boxing occasionally.
very rare these days.
You still go to the Hall of Fame, though, right?
Oh yes, yes. When it's on in Melbourne, any dinner that comes on, and I get an invite. Whether
You go
it's-
to the veteran
Whether it's the
boxes.
Brisbane, I go to the veteran boxing. But of course, at
You're
this
on
period,
Paul
at this
Nassari's
period of time,
radio program so long ago.
at this period of time, there's nothing really happening. With,
Well, Bill,
with getting together.
I want to thank you, Bill, for your time, mate. You certainly, you're one of our greatest ever, mate. We all admire you, mate, what you've done in the ring, and also as a referee and an official. You've done it all, mate. And good to see you still with us, Bill. And look, $1 million, and look like you're going to be here for a while yet, mate.
Well, I've met a lot of nice friends, a lot of nice people. It was nice getting fan mail at one time or another. It's all part of history. But I've enjoyed the company of just about everybody in boxing. It truly is a gentleman's sport. There are some cranky ones, but most of them are absolutely A class.
Good on you, Bill. Thanks for your time, Billy.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you very much.
All the best, Bill.